Borthakur IAS Academy, an endeavor of excellence.
Borthakur IAS Academy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Borthakur IAS Academy, Northeast's premier institute for UPSC, APSC and NPSC preparations. I'm your friend Atreyi and today I'm here with another segment of Current Affairs 365 dated 11th of August 2021. I hope you all are doing well. Please don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram. So the first news of today is about National Mission on Edible Oil, oil palm. Recently, Prime Minister has announced a new national initiative on palm oil production to help increase the farm incomes. This scheme, called the National Edible Oil Mission Oil Palm, for self-reliance in edible oil, it involves investment of over 11,000 crore for a period of 5 years. The main aim here is to harness domestic edible oil prices that are dictated by expensive palm oil imports. The special emphasis of this particular scheme will be in India's northeastern states and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, mainly because of the conducive weather conditions in the regions. Under the scheme, oil palm farmers will be provided financial assistance and they will get remuneration under a price and viability formula. The major significance of this scheme includes reduction in import dependence. It is expected to incentivize production of palm oil to reduce the dependence on imports, and it will help farmers cash in on the huge market. Secondly, India is the largest consumer of vegetable oil in the world. So palm oil imports are almost 55% of its total vegetable oil imports. Next benefit is rise in yields. India produces less than half of the roughly 2.4 crore tons of edible oil that it consumes annually. So 94.1% of its palm oil is used in food products, especially for cooking purposes. Hence, it makes palm oil extremely critical to India's edible oils economy. Palm oil is currently the most consumed worldwide vegetable oil. It is used extensively in production of detergents, plastics, cosmetics as well as biofuels. Top consumers of palm oil includes India, China and the European Union nations. Coming to the economy of edible oil, setting up of the technology mission on oilseeds in 1986 is one of the major features, which was later on converted into a national mission on oilseeds and oil palm in the year 2014. This gave a trust to the government's efforts for augmenting the production of oilseeds. And other dominant feature which has significant impact on the present status of edible oilseeds includes the program of liberalization, under which government's economy policy allows greater freedom to the open market. Then Yellow Revolution is also one of the color revolutions which was launched to increase the production of edible oilseeds in our country. Government also launched Kharif Strategy 2021 for oilseeds, and it will bring an additional 6.37 lakh hectare area of land under oilseeds. Commonly used oils in India includes the groundnut oil, mustard oil, then sesame oil, sunflower, castor. These are major traditionally cultivated oilseeds. Soybean, sunflower and coconut are also other forms of oils which are very commonly used in different states of our country. The next news is related to the second phase of Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana or Ujjwala Scheme 2.0. It was recently launched by our Prime Minister, where he mentioned about his plans to promote Govardhan, taping cow dung for energy on the occasion of World Biofuel Day. World Biofuel Day is observed every year on 10th of August. Ujjwala is a part of the ambitious agenda for behavioral change, which will help India transit towards a $5 trillion economy by the year 2024. The first phase of the scheme was launched in May 2016 in order to provide liquefied petroleum gas connections to the poor household. And here in the second phase, it is aiming to provide maximum benefit to the migrants who live in other states and find it difficult to submit their address proofs. Now they will just have to give self-declaration in order to avail the benefit. Other objectives of this scheme includes empowering women and protecting their health, reducing the number of deaths in our country due to unclean cooking fuel, and also preventing young children from a significant number of acute respiratory illness, which are mainly caused due to indoor air pollution by burning fossil fuel. This scheme provides a financial support of rupees 1600 for each LPG connection to the BPL households. Along with the deposit-free LPG connection, the second phase of this scheme will provide first refill and a hot plate free of cost to the beneficiaries. The nodal ministry is Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. The first phase of the scheme was quite a success, as 8 crore poor families, including those from Dalit and tribal communities, were also given free cooking gas connections. The LPG infrastructure has been expanded manifold in our country. In last 6 years, more than 11,000 new distribution centers have been opened across the country. This scheme should be extended to poor households in both urban and semi-urban slum areas. There is a need for achieving a higher LPG coverage of the population by providing connections to households that do not have a LPG connection. The next news is about the PM Daksh scheme. Recently, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, they launched the PM Daksh portal and the mobile app. PM Daksh stands for Pradhan Mantri Dakshata or Kaushalta Sampanna Hitgrahi. And this particular portal is going to make the skill development schemes accessible to all the targeted groups. These groups includes scheduled castes, Safai Karmacharis, as well as other backward classes. The PM Daksh Yojana is being implemented from the year 2020-21. Under this particular scheme, eligible targeted groups are provided with the skill development training programs on short-term training program, as well as entrepreneurship development programs. So these training programs are being implemented through government training institutes, sector skill councils, which have been constituted by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, along with other credible institutions. Coming to its eligibility, people belonging to scheduled castes, other backward classes, economically backward classes, denotified tribes, and sanitation workers can avail this particular schemes. Okay, and it is being implemented by the 3 corporations under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. These 3 corporations are National Scheduled Castes Finance and Development Corporation, National Backward Classes Finance and Development Corporation, and lastly National Safai Karmacharis Finance and Development Corporation. The skill development training has been imparted to around 2,73,000 people of the target groups in the last 5 years, and most of the people of the target groups, they have minimal economic assets, so provision of training and enhancing their competencies is quite essential for economic upliftment of these marginalized target groups. Also, women, due to their overall domestic compulsions, they sometimes cannot involve themselves in wage employment, which normally involves long working hours and also migration to other cities. So there is a need to empower the women section amongst the targeted groups. Other initiatives which are related to skill development includes the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 3.0. Next is the National Career Service project, which was launched in 2015 by the Ministry of Labour and Employment. We have Kaushalacharya Awards, which were launched to recognize the contribution made by skill trainers and also to motivate more trainers to join the Skill India mission, and the Atmanirbhar Skilled Employer Mapping. It was launched in 2020 and it is a portal to help skilled people find sustainable livelihood opportunities. Moving ahead to the next news, recently the National Commission for Protection of Rights of the Child conducted a nationwide assessment of minority schools. This report was titled as Impact of Exemption under Article 15(5) with regards to Article 21A of the Constitution of India on education of minority communities. The main aim of this study was to assess how the 93rd Amendment of Indian Constitution, which exempts minority institutions from otherwise mandatory provisions of the right to education, it affected the children belonging to these communities. And this report also highlights the disproportionate number of minority institutions or dominance of non-minority category in the minority institutions. Coming to the highlights of this particular report, overall 62.5% of the students in these schools, they belong to non-minority communities. Only 8.76% of the students in minority schools belong to socially and economically disadvantaged backgrounds. Moreover, there is a disproportionate number in the sense that in West Bengal, 92.47% of the minority population is of Muslim and 2.47% are Christians. But on the contrary, there are 114 Christian minority schools and only 2 schools with Muslim minority status. Similar is the case in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, there also the Christian population is less than 1%, but there are 197 Christian minority schools in the state. This disproportionation, it takes away the core objective of establishing such minority educational institutions. And the major major point which was highlighted is the non-uniformity of madrasas. It was found that largest number of out-of-school children at 1.1 crore belong to the Muslim community. As per the report, there are 3 different kinds of madrasas. First, one is the recognized madrasas. These are registered and impart both religious as well as secular education. Next one is the unrecognized madrasas. They have been found deficient for registration by the state governments as secular education is not imparted. And third one are the unmapped madrasas. These have never applied for registration. According to NCPCR, the Sachar Committee report of 2005 says that 4% of Muslim children, they attend madrasas and they have only taken into account the registered madrasas. Further, the syllabus of these schools that have evolved over the centuries are not uniform, and that being left ignorant to the, and because of that the students are being left ignorant to the world around them. Many students, they develop an inferiority complex, being alienated from the rest of the society, and thus are unable to adjust with the environment. Moreover, in these schools, proper teachers training programs are also not available. So here the government should bring all such schools, including the madrasas, under the purview of Right to Education and Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan campaign. The NCPCR also backed reservation for students from minority communities in such schools after its survey found that a large proportion of non-minority students are studying here. There is also a need to lay down specific guidelines regarding the minimum percentage of students from the minority community to be admitted to these institutions. Now coming to NCPCR, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. It is a statutory body which was set up in March 2007 under the Commissions for Protection of Child Rights Act of 2005. It is under the administrative control of Ministry of Women and Child Development, and it inquires into complaints relating to a child's right to free and compulsory education under the Right to Education Act of 2009. This body also monitors the implementation of Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act of 2012. And this was all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it will be helpful. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll see you all again tomorrow with another segment of Current Affairs 365 only on Port Harcourt's IAS Academy, Northeast's premier institute for UPSC, APSC and NPSC preparations. Till then, take care, keep learning. Bye-bye.
Port Harcourt IAS Academy. প্ৰস্তুতি আৰু অধ্যয়নৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য ঠিকনা।
Port Harcourt IAS Academy